starry twinkle.
Okay, good morning, everybody. As we go to the beautiful class on the portion of the week, it's actually a class. This class is not on the portion.
It isn't.
No, it's on the specialty of this Shabbos. This Shabbos is a very special Shabbos. The Shabbos is, besides being the portion of Tazria, which is a fascinating portion on its own, this Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. And we read this Shabbos, it's called Shabbos HaChodesh. It's a Shabbos that we read the first commandment actually the Jewish people got in the land of Mitzrayim was that they should designate this month as the first month of the year. And that's where the class starts in text number 1A on page 207 in your book. You have the first mitzvah in the Torah, in Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt, where God said to Moses, that this month, the month of Nisan, is to you the head of the months. It's the first month of the year will be to you. Now we're calling it Nisan, which is the day, which is the name of the month. In the Torah, there's no names to the months. There's no names to the months in the Torah. It's called the first month. And for now on here in the Torah is called the second month. And then in Sivan is called the third month. And ultimately Rosh Hashanah is called the seventh month. In the Torah, we have the months are called by the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, etc. Later we're given the month is called the month Nisan, the month of Nisan. Question is who ultimately gave it, so you find this in the Gemara, these names of the month of Nisan, which is interesting, which was given the name the month of miracles, because connected to Yetzias Mitzrayim, which happened in the first month. Regarding, as it says in Rashi, what does that mean? Regarding the month of Nisan, God said, it will be the first in the order of months. Iyar will be called the second. Sivan will be called the third. And Tishrei will be called the seventh. And your birthday, Mazel Tov. We have time for that. So the question, so it's interesting, not a question. It's interesting that we go to the years and to the months. Jews go to the year and to the month. So the beginning of the year is in the month of Tishrei, which to the month, it's the seventh month. Go figure that out. We go to the years that the years start in the seventh month. That wouldn't make sense in a logical way, right? Doesn't make sense. Either why would we put the months? Why would Tishrei be the seventh month? Why don't we bring them both together? Tishrei is the first month, Nisan is the seventh month. But no, Nisan is the first month. Tishrei is the seventh month. Now the truth is, if you go in history, actually Tishrei in the Torah, in the beginning of time, in creation, Tishrei is the first month in the Torah. Actually, because when it comes like to the flood, it said the flood happened in the second month. You look at Rashi there, you have the flood started on the 17th day of the second month. And Rashi says it means the month of Cheshvan. That means from creation until going out of Egypt, which happened 2,000 years later, from creation until going out of Egypt to 2,448. So for 2,000 years, Tishrei was the first month, and Cheshvan was the second month. Comes the year the Jewish people are going out of Egypt, God changes it. He says, no, to the Jewish people, Nisan will be the first month. For now on, Nisan will be the first month. And Iyar will be the second month. And Tisha will be the seventh month. And Cheshvan will be the 8th month. What does that have to do? The question is really why do we suddenly need to have months? Why do we need it's a first month or a second month? I can say the importance of months, but who cares which is the first month and which is the second month, which is the third month? But the festivals go to the sun, not to the moon.
Don't they count from?
Oh, no, they count from Tishrei. We go to the sun. Look at the next one. So look at that. He says in text number 2, the Even Ezra tries to explain this. Actually, the year belongs only to the sun. The sun gives birth to the 4 seasons of the year. The Torah also goes to the seasons of the year. Pesach needs to be in the spring. Pesach in the spring by the sun, not by the moon. Cold, heat, spring, summer, winter. Now let us assume that the sun to be at the beginning of Aries, it will travel in the sphere for 365 days. Sun travels 365 days plus a close to a quarter of a day until it returns to the second time where it started. This is why the year is called Shana. Shana means to repeat. It repeats itself over every year. The sun travels every year, a year and a quarter of a day or whatever. I'm not an astronomer. But it's exactly 365 days a year. That's how many days there are in a year every single year. You see a quarter of a day. So, right. So that's why it's called, that's why in Hebrew, the word for year is Shana. It repeats. It repeats itself yearly. Just keeps on going, never changes. The Hebrew says, Yom Laila, the promise in Genesis, day and night, and seasons will not cease. Only in Florida. But in general, in the world will continue to go in its Shana. It will continue to go from generation to generation. As the Gemara says, every generation said the world's coming to an end, and it continues. Why does it continue? Because the Torah says it will continue. The world will continue. Now, the moon has no year. Really, the moon has no year. The moon goes by the months. The sun has no months. The sun has no months. And the moon has no years. Well, you see, actually, in the Hebrew calendar, we have 13 months this year. You you'll find that in the secular calendar, a 13-month calendar. So the sun never experiences renewal. Only the moon's light is renewed. It becomes of this, the month is called Chodesh. That's why in the Hebrew, the month is called Chodesh, new. In essence, the month renews itself every month. The years, and that's why, in essence, that's why the month has nothing to do with the years. We don't start the Hebrew calendar with the first month, because the month has nothing to do with the years have nothing to do with the months. No, it's very simple. There are two different purposes in Torah. There are two different purposes in Torah, the month and the years. Different purposes. Really, if you understand that concept, I mean, you need to know why is there need for two different purposes. Why didn't God bring these two concepts together? Right? Why couldn't they bring the two concepts together?
Right.
The aspect of the year and the months. Why didn't he make it into two purposes? And then question number two is why Dafka? So now we understand. So the Abishah, why did he create two different purposes? That's an important question. Why did he choose this month out of all months to be the first month? Why couldn't he put next month? Why this month? And the third question, why do we need to have months? You have 365 days.
Yeah.
That's it. And you go to 300. You're in the first day, you're in the 100th day, you're in the 150th day. Why do we need months? To us, please. Why need months? What's the importance of months? That you can go that can go by days. Those go by days. Ultimately, we know that cycle also go by days. We count it by days, 28-day cycle, whatever. You can go by days. So why do we need months? Why is it important to us to have months?
Okay, what?
That's a good question. So, because the months are independent to the year. In Jewish, again, in the secular, I can say you need months. You need to know what to put on your checkbook. But when to pay taxes. So I understand that issue. But I'm talking about in the Torah world, right? The Torah world, most of us don't go to the months, going to the year, right? You go to a Jew in the street. What's the month? He'll tell you it's April, March 31st. But what's important for us? The Hebrew month. What's important to us, though, and more important, what's important? This is the first month of the seventh month. How are you observing the month? In practical, how are you observing the month? How are you observing this as the first month? And why is it important? You know this is the first month. And what happens? This will be the 6th month or the 7th month. You're not going to observe Pesach because it is the 6th month. You observe Rosh Hashanah and Kippur and Sukkot is the 7th month. And why is it important to say this is the first month? The Torah way of looking at things, that this will be the 7th month. Celebrate Pesach because it is the 7th month.
Yeah, we could have.
And as always, Chassidus, the Rebbe wants to know, why is it practical? What is the practical teaching, application to us that we have this kind of a calendar, the calendar of the 1st and the 7th month? Olivia, the question is,
What is it?
what's it? They're ringing the bell. Yeah. Sure hope so. Oh. Okay. Let's go to the concept of what is the meaning of the months and the years. Let's go to a beautiful teaching of Nachmanides, the Ramban. What is the Ramban? Answer to this question is that when the Torah says regarding Nisan, this month is for you the head of the months. This is, the Torah didn't say this month is called the Chodesh Nisan. This is the first month. Not only this the first month, it's the head of all the months. A special head. I want you to always You always remember this is the first month. I want you, in essence, to remember every month that this is the first month. That's why God did not, in the Torah, give you names to the month. The first month. This is the second month. When you say the second month, you know it's a second to the first month. This is the seventh month because there was a first month. So if you would give your names to the month, then every month would have its own identity, and it would know where it came from. This is the month of Iyar. This is the month of Tishrei. No, the month of Tishrei is the seventh month in the Torah. That means it's the seventh month to the first month. What is Nisan? That's the first month. Remember the first month. That's the head. That's the head of the month. Right?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
for some reason,
You have nothing to do with the year. It's the head of the months. The months have nothing to do with the year. Months, it's the head of the months. Yes.
unfortunately, you're coming in and out. I don't know if I'm the only one that hears that. I'm trying to take notes. And I have a lot of, I don't mean to interrupt your class, but
You hear me better now?
I think it's when you're moving that it comes
Oh,
in.
I'm moving. Oy vey. You got to tie me down. You hear me better?
You can't shuckle.
I got to stop shuckling. My wife told me the same thing. Stop shuckling. But you're going to see, actually, it's part of this class. There's certain things that are in nature in you, and that's it.
I know. Thank you.
Okay. So the Rebbe continues. The Ramban, because I'm sorry. This month is for you the head of months. The first of the month of the year, it is to you. It does not mean to say that Nisan is categorically first, but that it is relative first, namely first for us.
But it's the beginning.
That's because it's number one. That is to say, it is the first month since our Exodus. This is always the first month. This is always the first month we went out of Mitzrayim.
You still could say that this is the first 30 days. You still didn't answer why.
Well, I'm going into the first month. This is the first month.
Okay.
You're right, but we don't have, that's the second, we need renewal. So we always have a renewal every month. Together. So besides it being the first month, we have Chodesh, it's called Chodesh because it's renewal. Besides that, so if you would have it only days and not months, you would not have renewal. So it would be the same thing as a Shana. We want renewal. So every 29 days, there's a renewal. It doesn't happen once a year. It happens every month, but this is the first month. This actually gives the capability for the other 12 renewals. Or 13 renewals, correct. Yeah. So let's continue. So it's the Torah custom to link the counting of days and months to a mitzvah. So that's why you see that in the Torah, not only when it comes to the month, it comes to the day. There's no days in the Torah, right? There's no Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Sunday is Yom Rishon. Monday is Yom Sheni. Yeah, Tuesday, and what is it's the first day to Shabbos. It's the second day to Shabbos. It's the third day to Shabbos. It's the sixth day to Shabbos. And why? Because really we don't want to, who cares what Sunday is? Sunday is connected to Shabbos. It's the first day to Shabbos. It's the second day to Shabbos. It's the third day to Shabbos. So that means the Torah wants that every day what you should remember is Shabbos. That's what's important to remember. Not that today is Sunday. Today is only the first day. Today is Thursday. It's the fifth day to Shabbos. For example, Jews do not name the days of the week. Other nations have names for each day. Jews, however, don't have names for the days of the week. Instead, we refer to them as a framework of Shabbos. We say the first day to Shabbos, second day to Shabbos, This is what we remember the Shabbos every day. So the Eibishter says, "HaChodesh hazeh lachem reis chadashim." This is the first month, and you should always remember this as the first month. That all the months of the year are all connected to the first month. Similarly, months never had names in the Torah or amongst Jews. Rather, Jews refer to months as the Torah does. In the first month and in the second year of the second month, the cloud lifted. Look throughout the Torah. It all's connected. Once Nisan came, I'm giving it the word Nisan. Once the month of Nisan came, right? Once Yetzias Mitzrayim came, actually, everything is counted to Yetzias Mitzrayim. So it's all counted. This was the second year in the second month of going out of Egypt. In the second year, in the first month, the temple was erected. And the second year, in the second month, the cloud lifted. In the seventh month of the first day, this then is the meaning, it is the first to you. That's what the Eibishter said to the Yidden, in Mitzrayim even. God said to the Moshe Rabbeinu, establish a first month to you forever. Forever, this will be the first month, because this is the month you went out of Mitzrayim. So God, in essence, wanted that every Jew, forever, all our history, remember, doesn't make a difference when he's in his month, which month he's in, he will always remember the first month. Because it's seventh to the first month. It doesn't mean that the beginning of the year is Tishrei. Right? And the truth, I told you, the beginning of the year was Tishrei, was counted that way in months also in the beginning of creation. Tishrei was the first month.
Whoa.
So now Tishrei became the seventh month, because the Eibishter wanted that Yetzias Mitzrayim would be the first month. And why did the Eibishter want the Yetzias Mitzrayim would be the first month? Because the whole concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim is connected to liberation, to change. Right? The whole concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim is the concept of the Chodesh. That's why it was given in Mitzrayim itself. The Eibishter says to the Yidden, the whole concept of going out of Mitzrayim is that this will become the month, and you should count to the month. So what's called in Hebrew Chodesh, that you realize that there is change, that there are two things in life, something that is continuous and something that demands change. Right? Yeah, you with me?
Yeah.
So that's why, in essence, the Eibishter separated the two concepts. The concept of months has nothing to do with years. And the concept of years that seemingly has nothing to do with months, really. It's the concept of years that goes more to days. That's why we count how many days are there in a year. 365 days. By Jews, we count how many days there are in a year. How many months? Sometimes 13, sometimes 12.
But we don't change the date of the year. We change it at Rosh Hashanah, right?
The year, because that's how we go every year. We go to years Rosh Hashanah. That's it. Rosh Hashanah is the years. But it's interesting because really, when does January is the year? Okay, Rosh Hashanah is the year because that's when God judges the world. Right? That's when God judges the world. That's how he started Rosh Hashanah as the year. That's why in the Gemara there's a Bar Rosh Hashanah, the 4 New Years. Because it depends when God judges different things in the world. So there's 4 New Years. But for humanity, since we're humans, we're not trees, we're not animals, so we count to when God judges humanity. And God judges humanity on Rosh Hashanah. Because that's when Adam was born, was created on Rosh Hashanah. That's when humanity is created. That's the birthday of humanity. Like a personal birthday. Every personal birthday is a time of reflection of another year. So too, so Adam and Eve were created on the first day of Tishrei. It's the birthday symbolic to whole humanity. The day of a cheshbon nefesh to humanity at large, in general. So this is the meaning that Ramban says is the first to you. It does not mean at the beginning of the year. It means that it is the first to us. Namely, we should call it the first month since our Exodus. It has nothing to do with the year. It has nothing to do with the year. We don't even go in the seasons. Our holidays don't go in that system. Our holidays, that's why sometimes our holidays are in April and March, because our holidays go to the spring, not to the month. We need to make sure that the spring is always in Nisan. And that doesn't go according to the monthly calendar. That you got to make sure that our monthly calendar is connected to the yearly calendar, to the sun. Because if not, you're going to soon be celebrating Pesach in the winter. So you need to know how to accomplish to bring the two together. But ultimately, the months have nothing to do with the year, in essence. The months have a separate purpose. And the purpose was given, the concept of the months was given to the Jews as a concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of them going out of Egypt. That's when the Yidden were connected to the concept of Chodesh, the concept of the monthly concept. That means, in essence, besides the concept of years and months, the meaning of years and months to us has a whole different purpose, a whole different meaning to the meaning of years and months to a Yid. What is the meaning to us of years and months? And it all comes down to this week's parsha that you're going to read in the synagogue. When God asks every Jew to establish his first month, this coming Shabbos is the beginning of your first month, the month of Nisan. That's why this Shabbos is a very powerful Shabbos, right? Because you have Shabbos and it's Chodesh. It's actually the first day of the month of Nisan. And we read Parshas Achoy, we read this mitzvah, 3 Torahs on this Shabbos. So this he brings down a beautiful story of Ben Gurion. This is not part of the Sikh of the Rebbe. Just thrown in over here. About 300 years ago, Ben Gurion said this statement in a speech to Anglo-American committee. He said about 300 years ago, a ship sailed from a new world, and its name was the Mayflower. This was an important event in the history of both England and America. The Mayflower, everybody knows about the Mayflower. And for this reason, to this day, every American child knows about the Mayflower. I don't know about that, but every American child knows about the Mayflower, the Pilgrims, Plymouth Rock. I went to visit Plymouth Rock, and Thanksgiving, whatever. It's a tourist attraction. I am, however, very interested to know if any Englishman or American, for that matter, is aware the hour and the day that the Mayflower set sail. Anybody over here know?
Nope.
Does any child or any adult know how many pilgrims there were on this historical voyage? What were the names of their families? What did they wear? What did they eat? Where did they get water to drink? What path did they navigate? And what happened on the route? Does anybody know this story? Maybe some of it, but does anybody know every detail? What did they eat? Behold, it was more than 3,300 years ago when our ancestors, people left Egypt. Every Jew in the world, in America, Soviet, Russia, Yemen, Germany, knows that his ancestors departed. They all know exactly which day. It was the 15th day of the month of Nisan. What did they wear? As it says, the lions were girded, their sandals on their feet. It's a pasuk in the Torah. Their staffs in their hand. We know exactly the way they traveled, and we know exactly what they ate. They ate matzahs, right? They ate matzahs. No, till they arrived to the Sea of Red, they ate matzahs. And they arrived to Sea after the 7-day journey. So we know exactly what they ate for 7 days, because they had nothing else. They ran out of Egypt, and they didn't have even time to, the dough should rise. And they ate matzah for 7 days. And we know the names of our ancestors. Go look, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. We know all the names. And they can coach you. We know Moses. We know the leader's name. We know exactly how many days it took. We know exactly what their journey was, where they got stuck, and then the splitting of the sea. And 50 days later, they received it. Every Jew knows this story. Amazing. To this day, Jews in the world and not only do we know the story, we all relive the story. For thousands of years, everybody's sitting down. For the next 7 days, for the 7 days of Pesach, we're sitting down to eat matzah.
Well, they do have Thanksgiving.
Yeah, one day, but we don't know exactly the story. Over here, we sit down and have Pesach. We know the story. We know the story, and we retell the story. We got it to Leviticus. That's why it's a mitzvah to retell the story. Exactly, the 10 plagues, etc., etc. Right? So to this day, Jews, the world, eat the same matzahs for 7 days, starting from the 15th day of Nisan each year. And they relate the story of Exodus. And they end by shouting 2 phrases that the children and parents and grandparents have been saying for thousands of years. Now we are slaves, next year we'll be free. Now we are in exile, next year we'll be in Yerushalayim, the land of Israel. This is the nature of the Jews. So that's the power, right? We remember, because that God implanted in us that we should never forget Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? And how did he implant it in the Jewish nation? By telling them this should become the first month. The Eibishter wanted that for the history from the going out of Egypt, we should never forget that Yetzias Mitzrayim. We should never forget that how many thousands of years is going to go by. A Jew will always remember that this is the month of Nisan, the first month, the month we went out of Mitzrayim. So the Eibishter, God created years and he created months. And that's why the Rabbi Yitzchak Arma says, text number 5, when the Medrash says, when God chose the world, he designated dates for the new month and new year. This track is indicative of the natural law that governed the universe at its inception. Accordingly, the month of Tishrei, when natural law was created, was designated at the beginning of the year. That's it. So when God created the world, the month of Tishrei was the first month, because that was the natural order of the world. So God created years, how many days should be in a year, and God created the moon, the sun and the moon, which is the concept of months and years. Was designated at the beginning of the year, and all subsequent months followed from Tishrei. That's why I said that the flood started in the second month. Look at the pasuk in the Torah, in the second month of the year. And as I said, Rashi says that's the month of Cheshvan, because that's when the flood started, in the second month, the month of Cheshvan. However, God saw the world could not sustain this level of judgment and rose to his will to choose Jacob as his descendants, meaning righteous people and their good deeds. In his great wisdom, he chose to reward them in a manner that overrules the judgment of the natural order. He then flooded the world with kindness and implemented a miraculous superior order. That's what happened by Yetzias Mitzrayim. Mishabacha b'Yaakov v'Banav, when God chose Jacob and his children. And when did he choose the Jewish nation? In Mitzrayim. That's what we say in our prayers, in our davening on Yom Tov, coming up Pesach. We'll say, Ata b'chatanu mikol ha'amim. You have chosen the Jewish nation. When did he choose the Jewish nation? In Mitzrayim.
He chose the Jewish nation with Abraham.
Chose a family. But when he chose a nation, chose a family, chose Abraham and his children. He chose Isaac and his children. He chose Jacob and his children. When did he choose a nation? That was in Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim. Actually, the first person to call the Jewish people as a nation was Pharaoh, Melech Mitzrayim. Pharaoh called the Jewish people a nation. The nation of the Jewish people. Until then, they were tribal.
Yeah.
So they became a nation. And then the Abishah chose the Jewish people as a nation. The Abishah chose a nation. And he chose a nation that will transform the world. Because that's what he chose, a nation to receive the Torah. He didn't choose a nation just as another nation. We need to have, besides 70 nations, we need another one more nation. Just to be part of the nations of the world. The Abishah chose a nation to receive the Torah that would transform the world. That will bring renewal in the world. And that's when he chose the month of Nisan. That's when he chose a miraculous. That's why the Abishah made the nation, the Jewish nation, and did it through miracles. Truth is that he showed that in the nation itself, because Abraham had a son, Isaac, through a miracle. So it actually is connected. Even Avraham Avinu is the choice of the beginning of the Jewish nation is through miracles. But ultimately, the collective nation as a nation happens through miracles. A miraculous beginning, a miraculous start off through the separation of the 10 plagues, through ultimately Yetzias Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt itself, through the crossing of the sea, and ultimately, trying to hold that in for a long time, and ultimately, through the concept of Matan Torah, to the giving of the Torah. So this is a whole transformation of a new reality, a new beginning. The Abishah is starting a new concept, a new beginning of a month that would become the first of the month to this nation, not to the rest of the world. The rest of the world, Nisan is not the first month.
Does it mean that God, the world cannot sustain this level of judgment?
Because in essence, the world couldn't sustain the concept of thus continuation. It would ultimately roll out of its existence because there would be no purpose in it. There would be a purposeless situation. The truth is that was in God's machshava in the beginning. So you ultimately waited for a couple of thousand years. That's why the Zohar says there's 2,000 years of world, there's 2,000 years of Torah, and there's 2,000 years of Golus, right, of exile. So the 2,000 years of world is from the beginning creation to Matan Torah, or actually till Avraham Avinu, which starts the whole situation. And now we're at 2,000 years of Torah, which started with giving of the Torah, and now we're in 2,000 years of exile. Which the truth is, all of it has the same purpose. All of it is the purpose of Torah. All of it is the purpose of the concept of the purpose of creation. and the purpose of why God wanted the world to begin with. So he then designed a new month for the commencing of this order. And the annual cycle of months followed this month. He chose the month of Nisan because this month God's great hand was displayed to the Jewish people. Great divine miracles occurred and are remembered in this month, and thus represents a wiser, miraculous, and far superior order. And that's why it's called the month of Nisan, the month of miracles. That's why the Chazal, all the sages, gave it the name Nisan, which is the concept, the aspect of miracles. That's what it says to you. It says, "B'Nisan nigolu," in the month of Nisan they were redeemed. Or "B'Nisan asid legal," and Mashiach will come in the month of Nisan.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe now says in text number 6, the Rebbe brought this whole thing together, and the Rebbe, in his own words, says in text number 6, the natural order is a steady system that never ceases.
What page is that? Please?
That's on page number 214. The natural order is a steady stream system that never ceases or changes. It is therefore analogous to the light and the cycle of the sun that never is changing. Similarly, the word shana in Hebrew is from the cognate mishnah, repetition. The same cycle repeating in an endless loop. That's the concept of creation. Constant. That's why we eat an egg. It's a circle on the morning. It's constant. It's never ending. The miraculous order is different in that it's a novel order. Change. Miracle changes something,
Yeah.
right? This is analogous to the moon because it fluctuates each day and its light is renewed each month. Accordingly, the chodesh, the month in Hebrew, is the word chidush, novelty. Novelty. Something that's novel, something that's new. A miracle. So the truth is, my friend, sunrise and sunrise should be a novelty. We take it for granted because the truth is, anything that is novel that happens every day becomes routine, right? So can you imagine the man started to fall 7 days after they went out of Egypt, right? Must have been for the first week a novelty. But imagine you had man every day, 365 days. Ultimately, your children, maybe it would be a novelty when it started with you, but your children would think that is natural, right? That's natural, right? So the Jewish people had 40 years in the desert, man. I'm sure the next generation said, "Oh, that's what happens. Man falls from heaven. That's the usual situation. Love falls from heaven." So something that is novel, that continuously happens, becomes a non-novelty. Correct? It becomes routine. Even though, it's novel. Not that the sun shines every morning, comes up every morning, and that you can breathe, and that you can walk, and that you can talk is a novelty. And you should feel it's a novelty every day. But it's not novel. It's not. It becomes a routine to every person. And every person takes it for granted. He's going to talk, and he's going to walk, and he's going to breathe, and the sun's going to come up, and it's going to be there. If the sun is not going to disappear, it's going to be there. If the sun's not there, I'm sorry, it's cloudy. But the sun is there.
Wrap up a question.
Yeah.
When the mountain started falling, was it before or after when they walked to the Red Sea?
No, it's after. First time something unnatural occurs, it's called a miracle. It is repeated again, it becomes natural. That's the way it is. That's the way human nature is. Something that continues happens, miracles that constantly happens. That's what the truth is. To the Jewish people going out of Mitzrayim, miracles was not a great accomplishment. Right? They were living miracles. They were living through miracles continuously. Right? You could not live in a desert without miracles. Right? Right? You could not, they would not be sustained in a desert without, not forget about 40 years, not a month, not a week. So they needed to have water. They needed to have food. They needed to have protection. That was given to them miraculously. Did it stop them kvetching? No, because they got used to miracles. No, it became a natural. It did nothing. That's human nature. Any miraculous event that would happen in a continuous situation would turn into a natural event. That's the way it is. So miracles is a novelty. A miraculous concept has to be a novelty. If it's not a novelty, it's going to become natural. You have to be supernatural to keep something a novelty that happens continuously as a novelty. And that's not the way it is. We are going to turn every novelty, into a natural. Because the truth is, the natural is a novelty. The natural way of life is a novelty. So the truth is, both the natural and the novelty are both a miracle. They're both a miracle, but one we call a miracle, and one we don't. We don't get up in the morning and say, "This is a miracle. I'm going to make a kiddush." Then we would have kiddush every day here. So, right? No, but even on halacha, you don't wake up in the morning and bench goimel. You don't bench goimel every morning. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. You woke up today in the morning, you should bench goimel. You should thank God you woke up in the morning, bench goimel. We don't. We only bench goimel if we go through a miraculous event. Something that we saw that we could have been in great danger, and we survived the danger. Seemingly go to sleep every night is not to us a great danger, even though maybe it is.
Yeah.
And most probably it is, but it's not. It's not, doesn't go in the same category.
Okay.
So when a nest happens to you, and that's in halacha, if something a nest happens to you, so you survive a crash, God forbid. Halacha, whenever you pass that place where you survive that situation, to make a bracha, make a blessing. The truth is, driving in Florida, every day you should make a blessing that you have made it home. You know, you made it home. Baruch Hashem. That was a miraculous situation because it's dangerous out there. It's a Wild West. A lot of things happen now. But we don't make a bracha that we survived the day because we take it naturally that Baruch Hashem, if we're gonna watch ourselves, we're gonna drive defensively, we're gonna walk, we're gonna keep our eyes open, and when we walk in the streets, we will make it home. That's the normal nature that will make it, even though it's miraculous. It's totally miraculous that you made it home, Baruch Hashem, and you survived the day. But it's not, it's the way it is. It's the way the Eibishter made the world. God, in essence, made the world on two tracks. The natural, which is supernatural, but it's natural. The Eibishter put it into nature in the normal ways of things. And then the Eibishter made a miracle, miraculous, supernatural. Two tracks. And he created these two tracks that it should be also incorporated truthfully in our yearly situation, in our yearly journey. We should have the natural year, the Shana, and then now suddenly this month comes. Suddenly this month demands us to understand that there's another track. There's another journey, and that's the supernatural journey. That's the Jewish journey, the supernatural journey. And if we can see in our life supernatural, we can incorporate in our life Yetzias Mitzrayim, even something that happened 3,000 years ago, and it's important to us that this happened 3,000 years ago, maybe we'll be able to see the natural also supernatural.
Absolutely.
So that's really the point. To be able to see in the natural supernatural, but the only way you can see that is if we believe and we live the supernatural, that it happened actually in our lives, in our Jewish history, it happened a supernatural situation. That not only was it a supernatural situation that transformed for that generation, their lives, but actually that supernatural event changed our lives. Changed the way we're going to live our lives, the way we're going to live our lives in this month. And we're going to live our life in this month, a life that they lived, a supernatural life. We're going to do something that is going to be different than the way we live our lives in the regular. So we're going to actually ultimately bring it in a practical way. We're going to change our lives for 7 days, right? We're going to change our lives. We're not going to continue in the day-to-day life that we have every day. We're going to get rid of the food that we eat on a day-to-day situation. We're going to change our food. We're going to change what we eat. We're going to change the basic staple of our food. We're going to go from bread to matzah. And to many of us, we're going to go even more than that, right? We're going to go from, like me, I'm going to go from oil to fats.
Why?
Because I don't eat any. I only eat chicken fats on Pesach.
Really?
Don't try it; it's very bad for the heart. But for the cholesterol, right? But we're going to change our lives. We're going to push it, change our lives, because we're going to say that we're not in the natural journey of life like we do for the last 360 50 days in our life. But for 7 days and 2 weeks from now, we're going to change our lives. Why? Because it's Nisan. It's the first month of the year. It's the one that the Abish showed miracles to the Jewish nation. And if he showed miracles to the Jewish nation in that time, he can show Jews. He can show miracles to the Jewish nation and to the world right now. So we can have miracles, and we should have miracles.
Yeah. We should expect miracles.
We should expect 100%. So that's the beauty. That's where it all started. The Eibishter told the Yidden in Mitzrayim, the Jewish people are from now on gonna serve, gonna establish this month as the first month. Not to connect it to the years, but this month is the first month, because this month is going to change their lives, and it's going to change their lives now and forever. Because the Jews are going to live on a two system. I'm going to ask the Jews to live on a two-tier system. And they're both important. I'm going to ask them to live a natural life, and I'm going to ask them to live a supernatural. I'm going to ask them to connect to the nature, and I'm going to ask them at the same moment to do it, to connect supernatural. And the truth is, to answer this, is going to also answer your question. Because a Yid, how do we become supernatural? How do we actually bring the supernatural? Is by doing it every month. That's why the Eibishter wants that you should do it every month. You should do it every month. Realize that there can be change. You can connect yourself to the supernatural every month. You can do it every month. Because if you do it once, then it's not gonna influence you. It's not gonna impress upon you that it's possible. But if you do it every month,
What?
change. If you say I'm gonna change I can do it, because there's change every month, every 30 days. There is the change in the world. There is change in the world, because the Eibishter created a new month, because there's a new month. So there is the capability of change. So I can get out of my natural order. I can get out of my natural order. I don't need to stick to my natural way, because there is the possibility of renewal. There is the possibility of change. So God doesn't want you to go meshuggah, right? Because he wants a natural order. Right? The Abish is the ones who want a person to go nuts, but he wants a person to change. And they should change to their capacity, not to somebody else's capacity, but to their own capacity. They should bring change to their lives. So
Rabbi Booker?
for surely negative things, you should be able to change. Even though you say, well, that's where I was brought up. That's where I am. That's my name. No. The Torah tells us, this is a new beginning. This is a new month. This is a new beginning. A new thing. It's not that you're right. The year is never changing. And if you're stuck to the year, which is good also, some things you shouldn't change. And there should be consistency in your life. And there should be normality in your life. But there is some things and there are times that we need to change. Yeah, sorry.
Leah
question?
Abraham, I just have, it's a little bit off track,
Can we
but
keep on
I
track?
just, What?
Can we keep on track
I'm
because I want
sorry?
to finish the sikha? And then we can go off track.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the Rebbe says, look how the Rebbe brings down the Rashi. This is a famous Rashi in text number 8 on page 216. In the beginning of God's creation, this Bereshis bara Elikim. So the Rebbe wants to bring back, they shouldn't think that this was not like in the thought of God from the whole creation. It's just the concept of development. Something that took thousands of years to develop this concept, right? And we're still in the development of this concept. In the beginning of God's creation, this verse calls, Rashi says, when you start the pasuk, Bereshis bara, this verse calls for midrashic interpretation. What does it mean? Bereshis bara. And the big base, our rabbis state, God created the world for the sake of Torah, for two things, base, for the sake of Torah, which is called the beginning of his ways, and for the sake of Israel, who is called the first of his grain. So the word Bereshis, right in the beginning of the Torah, which talks about creation, right away it says the purpose. Right away you have the whole concept. There's a beginning, right? So the question is, why is it important to say the first month? Because there is a beginning to the concept of change. There is a beginning. Just like there is a beginning in a natural form, there is a beginning to the concept of change. Change starts. When is the concept of change? The Eibishter wanted that we should remember when he changed the world. When did he change it? In the first month, when they were in Egypt. The Eibishter wants there should also be a beginning to change. Because if you're never going to make a beginning to change, you're never going to change. So the beginning starts now. Whenever your personal beginning starts. So the Rebbe says, text number 9 on page 217, as a Jew, we must serve God not because we understand his importance and want to serve him. That's the natural way, or out of the sense of obedience and self-sacrifice to submit to his will. The benefit of this method is that our service transcends the finite measures and boundaries of our nature. So in the service of God, we can do the same thing. Everything can be rationalized. Everything can be based on nature, and that's the natural form of the world. But then we can transcend nature. I'm a Jew.
And I'm proud.
And I'm proud, yeah. I'm a Jew and I'm proud. And I'm going to serve God because that's what the Eibishter wants. I need to transcend myself. I need change. This method of serving God stimulates a parallel desire in God to conduct the world affairs in a transcendental, supernatural order that awes the world's nature order into submission, as we explained above. we need to take this is so important, this sikha, especially in the time we're living today. We need to change the world. We need to change the world. In other hand, we must not neglect our human tendencies, right? Don't forget, you're still in the year, right? We're not looking for a person to change himself. Then looking for a person to change who he is, the way he lives. Right? Very important. As our entire heart and soul must be wrapped up within it. This is why we must study Torah and film mitzvahs, not only out of obedience, but also because we understand and love it. We need both worlds, my friends. We need both worlds. We need to live within the nature of the world to understand what we're doing, to enjoy what we're doing. And at the same moment, from time to time, go above yourself. Change yourself. Do things out of order. Do something new. Do something new. Let it be the first time you do it. The Rebbe should change the months to create something new with the Jewish nation. We should also do something new. The Rebbe would always say the Gemara says that the Tanu says, he gives advice to fishermen. If you want to catch fish, the best way to catch fish is after it rains. Why? Because fish want fresh water. Right. So the Gemara said, and that wasn't teaching, fish that live in water also understand the meaning of frishavasa, novelty, something new. Right? They're living in water. They can't live out of water. But they want the fresh water, right? They're living in water. They're surrounded by water. But now there's something new. So they go to the top to catch the fresh water. That's when fishermen should go fish. The fish are coming up. The chap frishavasa. They're coming to receive fresh water. We also need some fresh water. Novelty. Something different. Right? So the Yidden left Mitzrayim, not like any other slaves. They left Mitzrayim different. That's why nobody remembers the Mayflower exactly what they ate, because they ate what everybody else ate. We ate something different. Novelty. Matzah. Kosher tastes delicious. This method of serving God, on the other hand, must not, I did this, right? Must not neglect our human tendency when serving God. As our entire, this method of serving God stimulates the parallel desire to God to conduct the world according to natural order, which binds the world's nature order to God. The Rebbe continued, text number 10 to reach 218. When we serve God out of submission rather than out of understanding and love, our minds and hearts might object. We overrule these objections through the power of our submission and force ourselves to serve God. However, when we serve God out of complete understanding or love, the mind and heart preclude any possibility to fight God's will. There's no selfish in us. We are utterly transformed. So the Rebbe tries to explain we shouldn't do. We need both entities. We need Shana and we need Chodesh. We need both concepts. We need the Shana, the concept of where we become a natural force and we understand what we're doing and we enjoy what we're doing. And then we also need the aspect of Chodesh. We need constant renewal in our life, because if not, it's ultimately going to become stale. Although such transformation completely eradicates our selfish tendencies, there's still a benefit in serving God with submission. It gives an opportunity to toil for God, to wrestle with our inner objections, and to subdue our selfish tendencies. In other words, inner transformation highlights the ability to bind with God by making the body transparent to the soul. To the extent that we eradicate all selfishness. See, that's the whole concept of chametz and matzah. Chametz is ego, and matzah is humility. We need to bring humility into ourselves, not to be selfish, not to do things because we think we know everything and we comprehend everything. And we only do it out of self-enjoyment. Give ourselves up a little bit. Renewal. Give ourselves up. Serving God with submission highlights our subservient to God. Through our minds and hearts might be selfishly inclined, we compel ourselves to go against the natural inclination and fulfill God's will. So that's why we have both entities. This answers all our questions. That's why we have both entities. We have the concept of the year and the aspect of the month. We have the concept of repetition of nature, and we have the concept of total renewal, total new thing, something that's above who we are, something that's greater than who we are, something that is more godly than who ultimately we are. The Rebbe ends it. I'm going to end it off right now. It's very easy for us to resist and subjugate our nature when we reflect deeply into that to conquer our nature in all this and more, and in fact to do the very opposite, is much lighter form of suffering than death. This is what the Rebbe says. If Jews are ready to give their life to Yiddishkeit, they surely should be able to give in, to overcome their nature to live as a Jew. It's usually the opposite. It's easier to die as a Jew than to live as a Jew. But that's not true. If I'm ready to give my life up, if Jews are ready to give their life up to who they are as a Jew, they surely should be able to give in, to overcome a taiva, to overcome the Yetzer Hara, to live as a Jew. So why is it opposite? We're ready to give our life up to be a Jew, but we're not ready to give up our nature to live as a Jew. We're stuck in the way we are. This is the way we are. This is the way we think it needs to be. This is what we're comfortable with. If you're ready to give your life, well, who cares about your comfort? Yet we would be lovingly and willingly have accepted the pain of death. God preserve us. So not to be separate from God's unity and oneness, even for a moment, by an act of idolatry, God forbid. Certainly we ought to accept lovingly and willingly the comparative minor pain of exerting oneself in the performance of a mitzvah, in order to bind ourselves to God with the eternal bond. So why is it so hard for us to do that? Why are we stuck in our lives, in our own little worlds, and we're not willing to change it? We have a whole struggle of changing the ways of our lives. If a person would tell you to either give up your Yiddishkeit, we're going to kill you, or die, a Jew says, I'm ready to die. It doesn't make sense. You know why? Because our evil is very strong, right? So when we're put to the corner of life and death, that's when our evil has no say anymore. It loses its say. As long as it's not a concept where we feel we're going to be totally cut off from God, our evil is very strong. Our ego and our self-centeredness and our Yetzer Hara is extremely powerful. So how do we break that? How do we break that? So the Rebbe asked that question, Tux number 12, and he gives a simple way. How can we find the strength to wrestle with our selfless inclination? and overcome them if they are still strong, and they remain strong after we subdue them. How do we do this? We subdue it, and they come back, comes back. We subdue it, and it comes back. The Alter Rebbe says the answer is that's the Yetzer Hara. When the Yetzer Hara says to you, listen, I'm coming back. You think I'm coming back, right? I'm coming back. You're never gonna change. I'm coming back. I got you because this is so difficult. You are never gonna change. That's where you have to say you could change. Knowing that our effort to conquer our nature will eventually transform our nature and enable us to maintain the struggle. We cannot give in to the Yetzer Hara's trick to say, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm never going to change. So I'm going to change for a moment. But I'm not going to change. I'm going to return to who I am. That's the Yetzer Hara. Keep on doing it again and again and again. Overcome your nature 12 months a year. That's why we count to the moon. Even though we overcame it, and then we wax. Right? So don't have a new month. That's what the Yetzer Hara says. Don't have a new month. Right? Because you're gonna wax anyway. You're gonna go down anyway, right? You're gonna have an inspiration, and then it's gonna wane. Oh, that's good. You'll have inspiration again. Hopefully, you won't wane. Wait a little less, and then you're gonna have inspiration again. Hopefully, you won't wane a little less. But the second you stop to do chodesh, the second you stop to have a renewal, because it's gonna wane, you'll never have a renewal. So therefore, we know the new month is the sun, the moon is going to wane. We know that in the beginning. We know when we bless the new month, it's going to go down. We're going to bless it again. We're not going to stop, right? So too, the new month tells us that even though you're not going to change yourself in one day, you're not going to change yourself in 1 month. But you know what the beautiful thing is? Once you start changing yourself, always remember the first month.
Get up and do it again.
Always remember the first month. Yidden should always remember Yetzias Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt. What did that teach us? Once we went out of Egypt, we can always go out of Egypt. That's what he's saying in your Haggadah. If God wouldn't have taken us out of Egypt, we would never, ever get out of any Egypt. That God took us out of Egypt, even though we're still in Egypt. We said in the Haggadah, we are still slaves, but we can get out of Egypt because God took us out of Egypt. Once God took us out of Egypt, we can always go out of Egypt. And that's what you have to learn from that. That even though we live in a natural world and it ultimately affects the way we do our own service to God in a natural, we need to change. And even though we're going to change, it might not be as perfect the way we want it to be because we're going to wane. Nevertheless, change it again. Change it again. Change it again.
Because it's never gonna wane.
Because it's ultimately going to change. Ultimately, if you're not going to give in, oh, but look to wane. Oh, look, it didn't work out. Oh, it's not as holy as I thought I was. Don't make a difference. There's a new Chodesh. Do it again. Start again. Oh, but it didn't go. Start again. Keep on starting again. There's always renewal in your life. Don't say, oh, it will never be perfect because I'm not perfect. It'll ultimately be perfect. The more you bring perfection into it, the more it'll ultimately come out perfect. And that's the lesson of this month. I wish you all a wonderful Chodesh.
Amen.
It's a great month. It's a Shabbos. We should all be blessed with a Chodesh Nisan, a month of Geula, a month of redemption, a month of great miracles in all our lives, a month of great miracles in the world. In Nisan Nigel, in the month of Nisan, we redeemed In the month of Nisan, the Mitzvah will be redeemed again and go out of this gullus
Amen.
that we are in this present time. Have a wonderful and beautiful day.